Hello, everyone. We are live. I apologize for being a few minutes late here. I was just lost in a sea of screens being open, tabs. There's like, I can't even tell you, 52 tabs here that are open right now. And I keep being distracted by this project and that project and answering this email and getting my notes ready for this and my day and so I just went on Instagram and said going live, and now we're live, and I'm really excited about today's conversation. I am going to do what I say that I do, and I'm going to share this and tell you to share this on your personal Facebook page right now. So, I'm going to share this, and here we go. If you or someone you know has lupus, please watch and share. Here we go. Talking about heart health today. We are talking about heart health today. Let's see, here's someone else to share. Okay, here we go. All right, guys, where is everybody? Everybody come join us today. Anyway, speaking of heart health, I feel that my heart does say it is heavy this morning. I feel like there's just so much happening in the world, in the news. It all feels like a bit much. Can I get an amen? Yes. Anyways, we're going to talk about the mechanical heart today, not the physiological, spiritual, emotional heart, because I'm sure all of us can say that January, holy cow, what happened there? Hello, I see a few people joining us now. Welcome, Lupus Facebook Live support chat. If you hear banging and clanging, that's because they're building my neighbor's house next door. And I'm very excited to get to know this family, but I'm not very excited about all of the banging and clanging and dropping and hanging and drilling and forklifting that's been going on and will be going on for the next 6 months. So bear with me if you hear a little bit of noise. This is my home office, and it's too much trouble to move it somewhere else temporarily, but next door, they're building my neighbor's home. So if you hear that, that is what's going on. It is February. Can you believe it? We made it. Barely. We barely made it. I wasn't sure if January was ever going to end. Can I get an amen for that? Holy cow, but here we are. What an accomplishment. We did it. We did it. Oh my gosh. And February is full, is chock full of things to talk about. And I don't want to overwhelm you, but you will see during the month of February a lot of content coming your way on our socials regarding Black History Month, rheumatoid arthritis awareness, Heart Health Month, which we're going to talk about and spend a few minutes talking about in just a few. Lots of things, but I think I buried the lead. Because the most important thing to talk about, and the real news of February, the thing we all look forward to with great eagerness and anticipation, is, you guessed it, Groundhog's Day. I'm being a little facetious, but I thought, since yesterday was Groundhog's Day, I'd do a little deep dive to get us going here at the beginning of our February conversation. And let's just learn a little bit about that little rascal, Punxsutawney Phil, who lives in Gobbler's Knob, Pennsylvania. Yes, that's a real place. Punxsutawney Phil lives in Gobbler's Knob, which I think sounds very magical. I would love to live in Gobbler's Knob. It sounds something right out of The Hobbit. And once a year, the famous groundhog predicts with his limited success in the United States if we will have an early spring or the dreaded 6 more weeks of winter. And he does this based on whether or not he sees his shadow. You might be asking yourself, wait a second, how can a groundhog that does not speak, or I'm assuming use sign language of any sort, be able to tell us if he sees his shadow or not? And let me tell you, there's a whole thing that they do, and there's a whole steps for they know, and they can confirm if he did or did not. So, um, the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club, yes, that is a real thing, and it's very serious, is the one that can watch the groundhog and then determine if Punxsutawney Phil sees the shadow or not. So the groundhog has been predicting, this is so funny, weather since 1887. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The irony of the fact that we still do this, yet I don't know, like legislation and protocols in the US that do matter can just be ended. Oh my gosh. So the groundhog has been predicting the weather since 1887. Um, but the predictions are not always correct. And let's see, for the years of 2012 and 2021, the groundhog was correct about 40% of the time, according to the National Weather and Atmospheric Administration. And hopefully he is not right this go round, because he did predict 6 more weeks of winter, and that would mean frigid temperatures are going to continue. So Punxsutawney Phil has about a 35% overall accuracy rating. Yeah, we still do this rating over the last 135 years that we have celebrated Groundhog's Day. And the origins of Groundhog Day, sorry, I keep saying Groundhog's Day. That is just somewhere in my deep gray matter, so I'm trying to fix that. Groundhog Day, they date back to the German settlers in the 1800s, and the celebration of the Christian festival of Candlemas, which sounds very similar to Christmas, which was held on February 2nd, which is Groundhog Day. And that is the midpoint, I'll have you, between winter solstice and spring equinox. So there is kind of a point to this, that midpoint between the cold winter days and the spring starting to approach. And early Christians believed that a sunny Candlemas meant 40 more days of cold and snow. Looking to the groundhog to predict the weather is rooted in European lore, where a badger, which they considered a sacred bear, prognosticates, which means predicts, the weather. So German immigrants brought Candlemas traditions with them to the US, but the groundhog was chosen to continue this tradition instead of the badger. So hence this was born. And Punxsutawney Phil in this town of, what did I call it? What's the town called? Oh, Gobbler's Knob, Pennsylvania, has a family. So you know, this has been happening for over 100 years, and you know, there hasn't just been one Punxsutawney. Obviously, he has a family. So Phil and Phyllis are proud parents of 2 new Phil and Phyllis, get it? Punxsutawney Phil, Punxsutawney Phyllis. 2 new groundhogs, a female named Sunny and a male named Shadow. Cute, get it? Sunny, Shadow. Born in March, according to the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club, and they take it very seriously. So there you have it. February is full of wonderful things to celebrate, except for the fact that apparently Punxsutawney did see a shadow, went back into his little nest, his little cozy nook, and therefore we have 6 more weeks of winter, or 60% chance of that not being true, because he's only accurate 40% of the time. All right. Okay. Thought that was kind of light and frothy to start our morning, and funny and amusing. So let me introduce myself. Hello, everyone. I hope that you find us today trying to figure out if this place on Facebook is still working for people. with different changes to that's what I'm looking for. Changes to social media. We've kind of seen an influx of people going different places at different times. Some people are leaving social media completely. So I just want to know if this is something that you still find of value and it's worth my effort and my time to continue to do this, and that you find it as a resource that's very helpful. If there are other times, other places, if you prefer Instagram, if you want to talk just on Twitter, maybe YouTube, let me know. And I'm always open to negotiating and seeing really where the needs are and hopefully filling those needs. If you're joining for the first time, my name is Kelly, and I'm the creator and executive director of the Portland-based nonprofit More Than Lupus. And More Than Lupus, we have over 100 blogs on our website. We are voted one of the top lupus blogs in the world by FeedSpot. Very thankful for that recognition. And we are an inclusive community designed by lupus patients to connect, to grow, and to inspire you throughout the peaks and valleys of your lupus journey. And I take a few moments in the beginning to remind myself and hopefully remind you that we are more than a sum of everything that is quote unquote wrong with us. We are more than lupus, and I am more than lupus. And let me say, I love looking at puppies right now. That's what I'm doing. Looking at a lot of puppies. I love exploring new restaurants. I love a good conversation. My favorite thing in the world is connecting with people in deep and meaningful ways, usually one-on-one. That's like my favorite thing ever, having coffee conversations that last for hours, or digging into something, having someone feel truly seen. That's like my favorite thing ever. I love pushing myself to grow, even though it's hard. I love dance. I love anything artsy, really. I love makeup design, interior design. I love fine art. I love musical theater. I love music. As I said, I love dance. I love a good podcast. And I love chocolate. Probably a little too much. So I really try kind of not eat too much these days because of my blood sugar levels from being on steroids for so long. So I tend to do sugar-free stuff, which I know is probably not the best. But and oh yeah, I happen to have lived with systemic lupus erythematosus. That's a mouthful, for 33 years. In January was 33 years, right? Yeah. Whoa. And I have multiple lupus overlap conditions, including, the norms, a little Sjogren's, a little Raynaud's, a little rheumatoid arthritis, a little neuropathy, a little pleurisy, a little all those things, super fun, right? A little iritis in there, great things. Hypertension, all the loveliness. Pre-diabetic, yeah, fun stuff. So I am a facilitator for this hour-long Facebook chat, hang time, community gathering, forum, question and response, whatever you want to call it. And before I get into the disclaimer, I just want to say that if you are here, if you're joining on YouTube or Facebook Live, please tell us where you're joining from. If you have lupus or lupus overlap condition, if you're here to support someone who does, and any questions, any comments and concerns, please post them here. I really value that time at the end to be able to connect with you all. So, if there's a new resource that you're hoping to hear more about, if you have questions about it, maybe you've heard about a new therapy in the pipeline or clinical trial question, maybe you're wondering how to get involved, support group question, medication question, lab test question, how to prepare for your next rheumatology visit question, how can you successfully travel with lupus, how can you have a better intimacy with lupus, all of these questions, post them here. And I'm not a lupus expert. Let me just tell you that. I cringe when people say they're lupus experts. I really do. And I hear it a lot. After living with lupus for 33 years, I would never call myself a lupus expert, because this is one of the most complicated diseases out there. And the layers are barely being peeled back by the medical society, mostly because it impacts disproportionately women. And women statistically have been understudied in every part of their body in medical history. So they literally know less about every part of a woman's body than they do a man's body, because women weren't even allowed to be in clinical trials until the mid-century, because they felt that their hysteria, aka their period, would interfere with the clinical trials. So they didn't study women. Yeah. And women disproportionately are impacted 60% by chronic illness, and overwhelmingly the sufferers of autoimmune conditions like lupus. So we do not know much about lupus. We are learning more and more every day in clinical trials, in research labs, in patient studies. But we have far, far, far to go. And that is why I take that stance and I stay in my lane, and I will say, until I'm blue in the face, I'm not a lupus expert. But what I do know, and the resources I do have, are vetted through professionals. And I encourage you, we provide you with the resources so that you could have a good conversation with your doctor. So post those things here after I get through the information portion and then the inspiration portion of today's chat. I will start at the top of the comments and I will work my way down and hopefully get through as much as I can before the end of the hour. Thank you. So say hi. Hi, everybody. Say hi. Disclaimer time. The More Than Lupus Facebook page, Lupus Live support chats are aimed to be a positive and open space where you can both give and receive support and encouragement from others. I am not a doctor, therefore I cannot give you medical advice or diagnose the symptoms that you may be having. All that we can do at More Than Lupus is provide you with information that you can in turn take back to your doctors, because I know many of us have many, and hopefully have an open and honest conversation about what is the best course of action for you. What's that called, my friends? Shared decision making, which should be standard of care. Additionally, this group is intended for those living with lupus or lupus overlap illnesses. It's also intended, so that's everything from fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, scleroderma, mixed connective, all of those. It's also intended to provide support and encouragement to those who know someone living with lupus, a friend, a significant other, partner, neighbor, teammate, whatever. If you don't fall into those two categories, though, this is not the right chat for you. And sometimes these chats, because we're streaming live on YouTube and streaming on Facebook Live, they'll just get shared randomly into certain groups. I don't know why and how that happens, but as you can tell, spam has been out of control on social media lately. There's nothing we can really do about it on our ends, which is very sad. So if you see something that you know is not supposed to be here, I see it, I get rid of it. And then I will say to you, what? Refresh your page. Don't engage, refresh your page. Just my little jingle for you so you remember. Don't engage, refresh your page. I see it, get rid of it. Should not be here. Do not waste a morsel of your energy engaging in something that you're like, whatever, this is so ridiculous. Yuck. Go, right? Yeah. And also, though, something I've learned in the last few weeks, people are not going to like everything that I say. People don't agree with the things that I highlight and put out there. And I have felt that more than ever the last few weeks. And that is okay. But we can disagree without being disagreeable. We can walk hand in hand without seeing eye to eye on everything. And that's my stance. That is my stance. We can disagree without being disagreeable, and we can walk hand in hand without seeing eye to eye on everything. But kindness is key. And being clear, in my opinion, is kind. Not everybody thinks that way, and that's okay too. But if this is a place that you feel you want to make your opinion known, and it's done in a way that is not kind and is dehumanizing, this is not the right place for you. and any inappropriate or negative material will be deleted. Okay? Okay. I also want to remind everyone to share. I know you hear this all the time, but I'm going to say it again for people who maybe haven't been here in a while. The more you care, the more you share, the more people are aware of the services and support that we provide at More Than Lupus. And before I get into our topic today, I want to give you a few updates. February 15th. Guys, it's February 3rd now, so that's coming up soon. Mark your calendars. We will be having a special in-person and virtual sweetheart support group with some Valentine's games and some sweet treats. So come join us in person at Tabor Space in Southeast Portland on February 15th at 10 a.m. I will be there, and my little Cupid Luca will be there as well, throwing Valentine's candies at you. And then come back to Zoom for our online support group, 3 p.m., that's 6 p.m. Eastern time, for Valentine's games and a special giveaway. Okay? All right. And lastly, before I get in the topic, brand new blog up, let me tell you, my back, can you see all the arrows? Shoot. That I thought I still stuck in my back. Oh gosh, I got skewered for this blog, but this blog, it's new. If you'd like to take a read, go ahead. It's called How Rolling Back DEI Will Impact the Disability and Chronic Illness Community. It was picked up and shared by Dr. Thomas, which I'm very thankful for, but obviously the more you share and put it out there, the more opinions. And as I mentioned, not everybody agrees with the things that I say on this platform, and that's okay. But go ahead and read it. Just to give you a little snippet, only a few days into the second term, President Trump and the administration, held to their promises to terminate federal government agencies that oversee diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Those are facts. And in his words, he called them illegal and immoral DEI programs, and also the employees who work for those DEI programs were placed on a leave. And were part of what he deemed wasteful and radical under the guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you're unfamiliar with the term DEI and what those programs represent, that's something that we do here. We want to make sure that every person, no matter their background, has equity, is treated with dignity, and also barriers are removed to care for disproportionately impacted individuals with lupus. And also we try to combat ableism and dehumanization. So that's what DEI is in a nutshell. It encompasses people of different ages and races and ethnicities and abilities and disabilities and genders and religions and cultures and sexual orientations. It also covers people of diverse backgrounds and experiences and skills and expertises. And these programs, these DEI programs and initiatives, were placed into action a long time ago during the Civil Rights Act, or shortly following, actually, by Lyndon Johnson, to increase access to and remove barriers to higher education and career opportunities from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds and races and genders and varying levels of abilities. And the DEI setback and the discontinuation of these programs can halt progress and set back progress made to those in the disability illness community who consider themselves disabled and who live with chronic illnesses and are on disability or are trying to work with disability or chronic illness. And that makes up a large portion of the US, 25% of the US population. And history has undoubtedly shown us about the ableism that is steeped into our culture and our institutions, and shown that people with disabilities and chronic conditions have increased obstacles with landing employment, with keeping employment. In fact, in 2018, a study found that 67% of people feel uncomfortable talking to a disabled person. That includes managers and hiring professionals and people in the workplace. And that also paying disabled people sub minimum wage, below minimum wage, is still legal in some US states already. So it's not like this is something that is going to happen. It already has happened. However, Due to these laws that have been put in place, the needle was starting to trend a little bit for the better. Federal government was one of the biggest employers of disabled people in the country in the last few years. But this stop to that progress is not good, not good. The DEI orders and dismantling may drastically halt progress for disabled workers and workers who need accommodations due to chronic illness. So that's all I'm going to say about that. That's in the blog. Take it or leave it. It's out there. We believe in shining a light on policies that will impact our community, and that's what I did. Okay. All right. Let's get to today's topic. Lupus and heart health. Hi, people. Here we go. We got some on with us today. Happy to see everyone. I'm going to create my banner real quick. Ella, is that you? I hear you're in town. I'm so happy for that. Lupus and heart health. So if you weren't here from the beginning of this live, I mentioned that February is all sorts of things. It's Black History Month. We talk about rheumatoid arthritis. It was Groundhog Day. But really today, we're going to focus on something that's extremely important, and that is lupus and heart health, because February is Heart Health Month. Hi, Robin. Hi, Jill. Hi, Elva. Good to see you. Oh my gosh. Hello, Lupus Spoons. Would you please share this on your pages, because this is really important information for February. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's get to it. February is Heart Health Month, making it the perfect time to evaluate your habits and also maybe to make small adjustments that may lead to lifelong benefits with your health and your heart and your cardiovascular health. Whether you are joining us right now and you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or maybe you say you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, and maybe you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, because prioritizing your heart health, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, as you know, can significantly improve your overall well-being. So let's go back to the basics, see how much I can get through my notes. I have a lot today. Obviously, lupus is a life-altering and potentially, unfortunately, fatal disease, as many know have come close. Come close. In fact, I was just talking to Nick, my husband, about times where I thought I was going to die with this illness. It can be potentially fatal. And unfortunately, we have lost many people in our lupus community, sadly, to this illness. And it causes the immune system, which is your body's natural defense system, to attack healthy cells by mistake, okay? So your body's natural defense system attacks your healthy cells by mistake, and that causes inflammation, and it can cause tissue damage. If it's not caught in time, that tissue damage can really impact major vital organs. And one of those organs is the heart, and one of those systems, if you have systemic lupus, could be your cardiovascular system. And it's not a women's disease. However, it disproportionately impacts women, usually between the ages of 15 and 44. However, men can get lupus, boys can get lupus, any person of any age can get lupus, but statistically, it disproportionately impacts women of color between the ages of 15 and 44, okay? The cause for lupus is still unknown, and there is no cure. They are making progress in identifying hundreds of genetic variances that are linked to the development of the disease, but they truly feel it is a combination of factors, including genetics, those variants, and then also your environment together, perfect storm. And sometimes that epigenetics is not just social determinants to health, but viruses, bacteria. They now have somewhat put it out there that the virus that causes mono, Epstein-Barr virus, is thought to be the number one virus linked to lupus causation. Okay, and that's what happened with me. Yay! Yay! Epstein-Barr virus, you nasty little bug. Yeah. So the inflammation that is caused from our immune system attacking our healthy cells by mistake can happen anywhere. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize when they say, oh, you have lupus? Oh, that just makes you feel tired. Oh, it makes your joints hurt. Oh, you get a rash from time to time if you're out too long in the sun. No, that inflammation can go anywhere. Yeah, sorry, Debbie Downer, anywhere. And as you can tell, we're like snowflakes. There's no two lupus patients that are exactly the same. You could have a winning combination of nerve involvement and blood involvement and a little bit of joint involvement. Or you could be mainly joints, but you have some lung involvement with your pleurisy, or mainly skin and lungs. I mean, it's just like everyone is different, right? So most likely, the inflammation with lupus occurs in the joints, in the skin, in the kidneys, in the lungs, in the brain, and in the heart. Sorry, I'm doing it this way because it's reversed. In the heart, wherever your heart is. In the heart, causing, just like it would anywhere else, swelling and pain that can dramatically affect a person's life and even shorten a person's life if their heart is impacted by lupus. So this is going to talk a little bit about how lupus impacts the heart during our time here, how it's treated, and what you can do to be proactive instead of reactive regarding your cardiovascular health if you have lupus. So I'm not an expert, I'm not a cardiologist. So a lot of this information I'm pulling today is coming from the Lupus Encyclopedia, which I have buried down there. I would grab it. The Lupus Encyclopedia, the Lupus Foundation of America, the Lupus Research Alliance are three places I pulled from today to get some information for you. And I'm happy to provide you those links as well. The heart and the blood vessels and the arteries, and I'm also pulling from a blog that I wrote way back when, okay? The heart and the blood vessels and the arteries and the veins and the little tiny capillaries that carry blood to the rest of your body are referred to as your cardiovascular system. Say it with me, cardiovascular system. Hey, we learned something. Yeah. And throw your lungs into the equation, and you've got yourself a complex network of pathways of blood circulating and transporting oxygen and important elements to various parts of your body all day, every day of your life until you're dead. And this process is needed for life, for your cells and your systems to function properly, okay? And if your cardiovascular system in some way is compromised by illness or injury, genetic variances, you will most likely be referred to a doctor who specifically looks after and helps you manage your cardiovascular health, and that is a cardiologist. There's different specialists within that as well. I won't get into the weeds on that, but in fact, 50% of lupus patients see a cardiologist because 50% of lupus patients experience some sort of cardiovascular involvement with their disease, 50%. So because of that 50% margin, cardiovascular disease, unfortunately, is one of the top causes of death with systemic lupus. It's infection, cardiovascular disease. Those are the two top causes of death with lupus. It's a major complication of this disease and should not be ignored. And if you feel something's not right, I would implore you to be a squeaky wheel and make sure that you get in to see a specialist, because a lot of pre-existing conditions that may not have to do with your lupus can be catalysts for poor outcomes with your cardiovascular health. And some of those things include conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, and obesity. And these can increase the risk of cardiovascular and cardiac, strike that reverse, cardiac episodes and poor health outcomes with lupus as well. Some of you may have developed these coexisting conditions. They go from pre-existing to coexisting conditions throughout your lupus journey as well. So it might not have been BL before lupus. It might be during your lupus diagnosis that you now have type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, probably maybe from not being able to exercise as much, or from medication side effects like prednisone, being on prednisone for a long time. I know I'm pre-diabetic because of being on steroids for a long time. I know I have high blood pressure, most likely from being on steroids for a very long time. This is something that I've had to deal with. It was a big mess during my pregnancy. Yes, okay. So another potential risk for lupus patients and developing cardiovascular disease and issues that may impact your heart health is the overlap condition, antiphospholipid syndrome. And I'm curious, those of you who are watching today, who you feel safe sharing, have either pre-existing medical conditions or coexisting medical conditions, or also have the lupus overlap condition, antiphospholipid syndrome. Now, between 30 to 40% of lupus patients have it at diagnosis or develop antiphospholipid antibodies, which are antibodies. Once again, they're cells that attack your healthy cells by mistake that target your own blood vessels and the clotting proteins that lead to blood clots. And this can lead to blood clots in various parts of the body, which is no good, right? And very scary. And lupus patients who also have antiphospholipid syndrome, sometimes you might hear it referred to as anticoagulant syndrome. And please correct me if I'm wrong, medical professionals who are watching right now, most of the time it's referred to as antiphospholipid syndrome. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But lupus patients who have these antibodies, and they should be tested, yes, have a higher risk of valve disease, pulmonary hypertension, blood clots, organ damage, and miscarriage. And for all of my friends who have watched this, who are going to watch this, who are watching this live, and who have been through the roller coaster and the devastation of one or multiple miscarriages and were not told that they have antiphospholipid syndrome, or were not tested for antiphospholipid syndrome and did not know that a simple aspirin in many cases could have prevented that loss and that devastation and heartbreak. I am so sorry. Crap, guys, I wasn't going to go there because I've got a lot to say. And I know the people who are watching right now, and I know for myself that a miscarriage with lupus is awful. A miscarriage ever is awful. Ever, 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 ever. But not to be told and not to be tested is negligent. And one of the first things I will say, and I am not even close to being a medical expert, I am at best a researcher by proxy. When people reach out to me, and one of the biggest things that I get asked is, can I have a family with lupus? Can I carry a child? I've always wanted to be a mom and have my own child, whatever. I'm starting family planning. What do I need to know? And the first thing I will say is, have you been tested for antiphospholipid syndrome? Do you know what that is? Here is some information from Lupus Research Alliance, Lupus Foundation of America, the American College of Rheumatology, the Lupus Encyclopedia. Here is the blog on my experience. These are the tests that you need to ask your doctor to be tested for. The antiphospholipid syndrome, antibody, SSA, SSB, APL, all of these things you need to be tested because sometimes there needs to be more intervention and sometimes it's merely just a baby aspirin. Yes, yes. Anyway, I need to move on, but that's just freaking heartbreaking. Besides APS, antiphospholipid syndrome, there are conditions of the heart that can appear with that inflammation caused by our overactive immune system attacking our special, well, of course they're special, attacking our cardiac tissue by mistake and our cardiovascular tissue by mistake. And one of the things that can happen is pericarditis. And that is probably the most common condition associated with lupus. I'm going to put this word here so you can look it up later because I am merely giving you a snapshot of these things in the time that I have with you. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do this one too. I'm going to put this one here so you can read more about antiphospholipid syndrome too. Okay? Hopefully that went through. This is from the NIH. Okay. Pericarditis is I would say probably one of the most common conditions associated with lupus and heart. That is when the lining of the sac, and please, for medical professionals joining today, if I'm saying anything outside of my lane, please, I'm not beyond rebuke. And please tell me, when the lining of the sac around your heart becomes inflamed, okay? That's the lining of the sac around your heart becomes inflamed. And I believe that's pronounced your pericardium. Is that how you say it? Okay. Now, symptoms include chest pains, like really sharp chest pains, shortness of breath, and fatigue. This is something that feels different than maybe heartburn or maybe some referred pain from something else, maybe a muscle. It is like new and different. Anytime there's something that's new and different pain, you need to take notice of that. You need to make sure you reach out to your doctor about that. Thankfully, pericarditis typically does not interfere with the function of the heart because it does not affect the inner heart tissue. However, if your heart is chronically swollen, if that sac is chronically swollen, you can develop scar tissue. As I mentioned, if it's not treated appropriately and timely, that tissue that's been inflamed for a long time can become scarred, damaged, which can then interfere with the heart's ability to function and circulate blood effectively. Okay, so that's why it's not like a heart attack, life or death situation, but it is something that needs to be taken care of. Okay. Now, myocarditis is when the inner muscle of your heart, called the myocardium, is impacted. And lupus can also cause, unfortunately, inflammation in that area, inside the muscle of the heart, particularly in patients that are prone to get muscle swelling in other areas of your body. And symptoms also include chest pain, but when you have a rapid or irregular heartbeat, that's more of a sign of myocarditis instead of pericarditis. And symptoms, like I said, chest pain, rapid irregular heartbeat, and sometimes this can be triggered not only by lupus, but from epigenetics such as fungal infection, bacteria, or viral infection. And if you're on immunosuppressive medication or immunosuppressive medications, because many of us are on multiple medications that we're taking to suppress our overactive immune system, you might be, even though you're suppressing it for positive reasons to try and control your overactive autoimmune response, you can be at an increased risk for developing myocarditis. And 10 to 15% of patients develop symptomatic myocarditis as well. So let me put myocarditis here so you can look that one up. Okay. How are you doing on time? Oh, 10 minutes. Oopsies. Okay, then there's endocarditis, and that is the tissue that lines the inner heart. So we have the outer heart, then we have the muscle, and now we have the inner heart wall. The inner heart wall. So many different parts to one organ, right? And I haven't gotten even to the rest of the cardiovascular system. And the inner heart wall and the valves that separate the heart's chamber are called the endocardium. And I could be saying that wrong. Endocardium? Endocardium. You tell me, whoever's watching this. Like I said, I'm not a cardiologist or a medical professional. So when lupus attacks and causes inflammation and scarring and tissue damage in this part of the heart, it's called endocarditis. And this can cause lesions and also thickening of the heart valves. And it also can even, at its worst, cause infections, and then that can lead to blood clots. It can get real messy. It can be very dangerous, and it's pretty uncommon for people, thankfully, with healthy hearts, but it has been associated with those who have antiphospholipid syndrome, and about 6% in the study that I read of lupus patients can develop this. So, okay, that is endocarditis. Let me post that there. And moving on to coronary artery disease. Coronary artery disease, moving fast, not slowing down, can't stop, won't stop. Here we go. Coronary artery disease develops. We're moving kind of outside the heart, but what's attached to the heart are blood vessels that supply your heart. And those vessels, those blood vessels, can become damaged or diseased, and that's coronary artery disease. And the risk that a lupus patient will develop coronary heart disease is significantly higher than the general population. In fact, women between the ages of 35 to 44 years with SLE are more than 50 times more likely to have a heart attack than women of similar age who don't have lupus. Do you want me to post my little factoid there? Not a fun fact. I will post it just so you can put that in your little fact checks here. Yeah, and why is this? Doctors believe that it's because of our inflammatory levels, and also too, as I mentioned, that lupus patients are overwhelmingly disproportionately impacted by autoimmune illness. And a lot of that has to do with our DNA and how we actually produce a more robust immune response, and which is good when we are trying to survive as a species against viruses and bacteria and things like that. But it's not good when our immune system goes into hyperdrive and then we have got those cytokines in our body that are overactive, and those can cause a overabundance of antibody response that causes that inflammation, that causes the tissue damage, and unfortunately doesn't leave our heart very protected. Also, too, women are historically bypassed when it comes to heart health, particularly when we talk about heart attacks. In fact, there are studies that talk about how women die of heart attacks more often than men, because they're neglected in the ER and to be taken seriously. Black women are historically treated less and die quicker because of heart health, because of this stereotype as well. Yeah, not so good. Also, if your other organs are impacted, that can put pressure on your heart and coronary artery disease as well. Things like smoking, things like that can impact your lung health, can impact your heart health. If you have renal disease, if you have kidney nephritis, that can impact your heart health as well. And then if you are on medications like long-term corticosteroids, that can impact your ability to unfortunately develop coronary artery disease as well. So lots of things to think about. Vasculitis, I've got 5 minutes here. So vasculitis is another thing. I'm going to try and kind of move through these very quickly. And vasculitis is inflammation of the blood vessel walls. And many of you I know have dealt with vasculitis in various forms throughout your lupus journey. And symptoms of vasculitis or lupus-induced vasculitis can depend upon where the tissue is inflamed and where those blood vessels are inflamed. But you can feel feverish. You can have appetite and weight loss. You can have headaches, blurred vision, seizures, strokes. All of that can be very serious. So many of you know and have been through that. So I'm going to put that there as well. Okay, and then treatments. Let's get to some things that we can do to take some of our power back here, right? Geez, Kelly, you're just being so boom and doom. But no, there are many things that we can do to be proactive with our heart and cardiovascular health. If you have kidney disease from lupus or live with hypertension, if you have elevated cholesterol levels, if you have type 2 diabetes from corticosteroid use, if you are inactive or sedentary due to joint muscle pain, it is important to talk to your doctor about reducing your chances of developing any of these things that I mentioned. It's imperative to speak to your rheumatologist about controlling your lupus disease activity, tapering off steroids, and controlling other risk factors, diet, exercise, high blood pressure, those things. Most of these conditions can be treated with non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, yeah, I know, and steroids, ironically, to get the things under control. But sometimes they will treat these conditions with how they treat your lupus overall. So they will try and get your overall inflammatory levels down that are impacting the swelling in one way or another in your heart. And these medications include azathioprine, which is the generic for Imuron, mycophenolate, which is Cellcept, belimumab, which is Benlysta, even IVIG. I don't know enough to say if Safnello is included in this or not, and then the first FDA-approved drug that treats lupus that was ever approved is aspirin. So talk to your doctor about these things and how controlling your overall disease activity may help your heart health. We know this can be scary to hear about, and your mind might be swimming in a lot of information that I just threw at you right now. But with various lifestyle changes, guys, you've got this. You've got this. You can control your lupus disease activities to the best of your ability by maintaining healthy diet habits. The Mediterranean diet, guys. Once again, another person just posted about the Mediterranean diet. Dr. Thomas is always posting about the Mediterranean diet. I follow the Mediterranean diet. It's really, really great, making sure you get those good fats, those great omegas, those lean proteins, lots of nuts, lots of fish, lots of healthy oils. They'll help you maintain a healthy weight. If you're smoking, please try and quit. Decrease your alcohol consumption. There's lots of studies that say actually a little bit of alcohol is actually somewhat good, but not a lot. Make sure you're controlling those blood glucose levels as well, and do what you can to maintain normal blood pressure, okay? I'm going to have more about heart health throughout the month. In fact, I'm going to see if I can snag Dr. Thomas on with us so he can ask you any questions that you have about lupus and heart health. Just stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that. To be determined. But anyway, that is all that I have time to throw at you today. I hope that you found that beneficial. Hi, everybody who's joining. Good. We got some people on with us today. Thank you. And for your quote today, first of all, I've got 3 books here. I am not making money. I'm not an Amazon influencer. I don't have any coupon codes. I'm not selling you anything. But I will say these 3 books have been wonderful. I'm not done with these 2, but I've been flipping back and forth between them, and I'm just really, really, really loving these 2 books. Blessed Are the Rest of Us. This one is about how limits and longing make us whole. There's a spiritual undertone to this book. If you're sensitive to that, just want to make sure that you know that. Her son was diagnosed in the womb with Down syndrome, and it talks about grief, feeling exhausted, living with a chronic condition and a disability, how you feel powerless in a world of ableism, but also seeing the wholeness in every single person and humanity in every person, and how we don't. This is a wonderful book. And then this little gem, let me tell you, I'm kind of slow to the Mel Robbins train, and I'm kind of apprehensive when it comes to self-help, motivational speakers, and things like that. I tend to stick to agents of change, like disability advocates, minority advocates, chronic illness advocates, and people, things like that. So like the self-help kind of stuff is not totally my jam. And I think this might fall more onto that. However, I love this book, let me just say, because in the climate that we're in, where everybody has an opinion and will use a lot of hate and a lot of manipulation and a lot of gaslighting, bypassing to convince you to think like them and that you're wrong if you think differently. Saying these 2 words, let them believe what they think, let them say what they want to say, let them, all these things is really powerful. I enjoy this book. In fact, I'm just going to read for your inspiration portion of the program today. You have 0 control over someone else's opinion of you. Let me just say that again. You have 0 control over someone else's opinion of you. In fact, it is impossible. It is impossible to control someone else's thoughts. Therefore, fearing what other people think or trying to control their thoughts is a complete waste of your time, of your life. You will never feel in control of your life, your feelings, your thoughts, or your actions until you stop being consumed with or trying to control what other people think about you. It's so good. It's so good. This whole book is like this. So good. You can get this on Audible instantly. If you order the book like I did, because I like to have a book in my hand and I like to I don't know what that noise is. I think it takes like 2 weeks to get because it's like backward because it's so popular. Okay, check it out. It's amazing. Amazing. All right, here we go. Wow, I just took so many notes. I'm sharing this with my 3 support groups. Thank you so much. Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you, Robin. Oh, thank you, Jill. That means so much coming from a medical professional. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that for sure. You are so welcome. And honestly, I thank you for showing up today because I had a hard day and I've been feeling really tired and really discouraged just with going, golly, when you try and do the best with what you can until you know better. And then when you know better, you try and do better. A lot of people don't think that way. I know a lot of people are just scared, and change is scary. I feel it, right? It's hard. It's hard. But I love you, my neighbors, and I'm here for you. And I hope that me showing up every Monday here for an hour is still a safe space for you and an informative space for you. And success is not, to me, about the paychecks or the endorsements or the amount of Facebook followers or how much engagement has increased or decreased or who shared this or shared that. It's about that one person that felt seen for the first time because we talked about something that meant something. Because we talked about something that meant something to them. And they can say, oh my God, that was me too. I'm on that medicine and that happened to me. Or I had a miscarriage. Or I had 5. And for the first time, you can just exhale because you know other people are here for you and see you and hear you and value your presence and understand on some level the pain, the difficulty, the exhaustion. Okay, guys. Okay, I'm going to go now. It's 12:06. All right. I'll see you next time, y'all. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.